Shalom, my name is Yair Davidiy. I'm speaking to you from a large settlement in the liberated territory of Judah on the west bank of the Jordan River, in a part of Israel that has been liberated by the Jewish people. And God willing, this is only a beginning. We will keep going. We will liberate all of it. Today we are about to speak concerning 3 verses in the book of Hosea. 3 verses in chapter 9 in the book of Hosea, 6, 7 and 8. And these 3 verses, they speak about Muhammad, they speak about Islam, they speak about the dangers of Islam. And the Prophet Hosea lived in the period when the lost 10 tribes were still in the land of Israel, but they were in the process of being exiled, of being thrown out of their land. The lost 10 tribes are referred to by Hosea as Ephraim. Ephraim is a generic name for all of the 10 tribes in the book of Hosea. Ephraim was the son of Joseph. Joseph had 2 sons, Ephraim and Menace. These were the 2 tribes of Joseph, because altogether there were 13 tribes, even though 12 tribes are kept in the quorum in the Bible. 12 tribes are mentioned, but actually there were 12 tribes. Ephraim and Menace were 2 separate tribes. They were the sons of Joseph. And Ephraim became the most important tribe in the northern kingdom after the Israelite tribes divided into 2 separate kingdoms. The kingdom of Judah was in the south. The northern kingdom of Israel, of 10 tribes, was in the north. The tribe of Ephraim was the most important tribe in that area, at least for most of the time. And it is not uncommon for the word Ephraim to refer to all of the northern tribes, and not just to the specific tribe of Ephraim itself. And in these 3 verses in Hosea chapter 9, verses 6, 7 and 8, Hosea also refers to Ephraim, and by Ephraim here he means all of the 10 tribes of Israel. And these 3 verses reflect the situation in our time when the lost 10 tribes, whom we trace to the Western nations, especially the English-speaking peoples, Britain and the USA, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, they are especially the tribes of Joseph, of Ephraim and Menace, of Ephraim, according to the prophecy in our time, and they, in the end times, according to Hosea, will try to establish a report, a rapprochement, a coming together, drawing closer to Islam, to get along with Islam, to get along with the Muslims, and this will backfire on them, God forbid, and it will bring disaster. This is Hosea warned us in his time, and Hosea, after the pattern, after the mode of the prophets, used events that were occurring in his own time, contemporary happenings, and the contemporary scene of his time, which he described, but he used that as a framework to project forward and tell us what would happen in the end times, towards the times of the Messiah. And we are in that period, or at least we are drawing very close to it, according to our understanding. And Hosea tells us what would go on, what would be going on. What was the situation in the time of Hosea? What was the situation in the time of Hosea? So he refers to Ephraim, he refers to the 10 tribes of Israel. That's who he's speaking about. That is whom Hosea spoke about in most of his prophecy. Even though he also refers to Judah here and there, most of the time he is referring to those 10 tribes, to the Ephraim, to the northern tribes. He's speaking about them, he's talking to them, but he was from them. He was from the tribe of Reuben, even though he seems to have dwelt in the kingdom of Judah whilst he was making the prophecies. But he was an onlooker. He saw what was going on. And at that time, the northern tribes were fighting. They had troubles with Assyria. They tried to make an alliance with Egypt. It backfired on them. Egypt was not of much help. Egypt probably seems to have betrayed them. Some of them fled to Egypt, and from there they were forced to move on. And also the neighbouring Ammonites who lived to the east of the Israelites in the region of what is now Jordan, or part of Jordan. Even today the capital of Jordan is still called Ammon, after the Ammonites who dwelt there. And they worshipped the god Hamosh, or Chemosh, or Hamosh, however you pronounce it. It was their national god, and Hosea refers to the Ammonites after the name of their god, and they were about to come in and take over after the Israelites would be thrown out of their habitat. So this is what Hosea is telling us. Now, we are translating it directly from the Hebrew text. We have an article on our websites concerning this, explaining our translation, how we get the words, how we understand the words, why we understand them a little bit differently from the conventional English translations. And this is how we understand the text to be rendered correctly. It says Hosea 9:6. Hosea 9:6 says, Ki hini alkum mishod mitzrayim tikabseim moch tikabrem machmad kaspam kimosh yerushem hoch b'olehem. This should be translated as saying, Hosea 9:6 is properly, according to us, translated as saying, they, that is Ephraim, Ephraim went away, they were exiled, they went away after being robbed. Egypt will gather them up, Memphis, Morph will bury them. Desire for their silver, Islam, that is machmad, it says machmad meaning Muhammad, that's what it says within the verse itself, machmad. Sometimes translated in English as pleasant places, sometimes as treasure, whatever. It says machmad, and machmad is Muhammad. It's the way you would say Muhammad. And machmad represents Islam. Desires their silver. The Islamic powers have a report with Ephraim, with Israelites in our time, because they want the money, they want the wealth that the English-speaking peoples can give them, can make come their way, as indeed it does. That is the interest that the Islamic Arab nations have in the West, even though they, together with that, they plan the destruction of the West and have innate animalistic hatred of all that the West stands for and all that the West is. So this is what it says. It says, Moth will bury them, and desire for their silver machmad of Islam is a motivating force in this. It says Hamosh, the god of the Ammonites, representing Ammon, the Ammonites, will inherit them. The Ammonites will come in and take over the land of Israelites after the Israelites will have been exiled by the Assyrians, and this is indeed what happened. And then thorns will take over their habitats. What the Ammonites and the other peoples who come in after the Israelites have been exiled, the rest will be left in desolation, as indeed it did. Archaeology shows us that after the Assyrian conquest of the northern territories, of the northern regions, most of the area was a wasteland. There's a thickness, the layers of ashes of destruction. And afterwards they brought in other people, some of whom became the Samaritans and others, and they settled there, but the settlements never really returned to what they had been previously. The destruction of the northern kingdom and the exile of all of the Israelite peoples in the northern kingdom is proven from archaeological findings. Going back to what Hosea said, Hosea in 9:6, he spoke of Egypt. In Egypt, the word for Egypt in Hebrew is Mitzrayim. This usually does mean Egypt. The land we know today is Egypt. Sometimes it refers to all of the Arab nations together, which Egypt being the head of them, but usually means Egypt. There was also a region in what is now Saudi Arabia known as Mitzrayim. It could also refer to that. It can also refer to Turkey, because there was an area known as Mitzrayim as well as in Egypt. There was also an area in the region of Turkey. Or it can also refer to Russia for other reasons, but Russia borders that region, and the term Mitzrayim could also be referred to what we now know as Russia. And in effect, Hosea was using what he saw in his times as a framework to project forward and tell us what would happen in the end times. So he may have been using terminology or figures or entities and referring to them, whereas in effect he was extrapolating and intended in the end times for something else, for something similar, or something which would merit to deserve the same name, the end time prophecy. And we can deduce more or less what the intention was to some degree, or we can bring forward definite possibilities. And in some cases deductions have been proven. He goes on and he tells us more. He also tells us that we should mention before we continue that the Ammonites could also refer to Mexicans. Ammonites lived to the east of the Israelites. Ammon and Moab were two different peoples. Brother nations, both Ammonites and Moabites moved to North Africa, or some of them did. In the medieval times, peoples of North Africa were known as Moab. They conquered Spain. Some of them settled in Spain. It could be applied to the Spanish. Also, some of them before the conquest of Latin America by the Spanish and Portuguese. There may have also been elements from Ammon and Moab already there, and then the Spanish and Portuguese came and they created the Mexican people. And in a sense, Ammon or Moab, or both of them together, could, in terms of prophecy, be represented by the Mexicans. And if anything, God forbid, happens to the American peoples in the USA, then you could count on your stop. You could use your watch, use it as a stopwatch to see how long it would take before the Mexicans started coming in and taking over what had been left behind. So this is worth keeping in mind. We hope that it never happens, but prophecy is there. Doesn't mean it has to be this way, but it is a possibility. And we have spoken of this. We should go on now to Hosea, the next verse, Hosea 7, chapter 9, Hosea 9, chapter 9, verse 7. It tells us the days of visitation have come, the days of retribution have arrived. Israel shall realize that the prophet is evil, a madman, a person of mental instability, because of your great sins and the increase of hatred. So there we have it. Talking about an evil prophet, a madman, a person in mental instability, will bring disaster. And this apparently is referring to the report that Ephraim will attempt to establish with the forces of Islam, as we see from the rest of the verses. The 10 tribes, and perhaps Judah as well, will have tried to establish a report with the forces of Islam. Islam is referred to in verse 9:6 as Machmad, meaning Muhammad, Islam. And here is referred to the forces of the evil prophet. The prophet is evil, a madman, which Maimonides tells us referred to Muhammad. He especially says, Maimonides especially says that the term Meshuga, which is translated as a madman here in this verse 9:7 of Hosea, madman refers to Muhammad. Muhammad was a madman, a person, an evil, spirited person, a person of mental instability. Isharuah, as it says, Bo yimi apakuda bo yimi ashadum yada Israel. Yadu Yisrael, Evel HaNavi, actually this word Evel, meaning here, It means criminal, malicious, wickedness. Is where we get the English word evil from. Many words in English are derived directly from Hebrew. At all events, this wicked prophet, evil Navi, the wicked maliciousness, the evil of the Navi, of the prophet, evil Navi, Meshuga, the madman, Ishal Roach, the person of mental instability, Rav Abanech, because of the greatness of your sin, of your transgression, Rabba Mastema, hatred is increased. As much as we try and get close to them, as much as we appease them, be good to them, help them, understand them, they hate us more and more and more, and the hatred for us grows and grows and grows, and they don't hide it. They don't even try to hide it. They're proud of it. And they shout about it in the streets, and they show it to our faces, and we just don't want to see it. That is the problem. So here we have it. We have what is the situation in our time. We see it prophesied by Hosea. And we see this. And because we have sinned, we will be punished for what we have done. And Islam, according to this, will be the means of punishment. Islam will be a means of punishment. It will bring calamity upon us. And we should be aware of this. And Israel will realize that when it is too late, that Islam is sick, Israel will wake up. The Israelites will wake up. They realize what they have done, what has happened to them, and that the Muslims hate us, and they will always hate us because it is what they are. That is the essence of their being. And we will realize this, but God forbid it may be too late, or we may have to pay a severe penalty, a price, before we can rectify the damage that will have been done. We should be aware of this. This is what Hosea is intimating to us. He is telling us this. And he goes on in Hosea 9, verse 8, Ephraim looked to think like the God of the prophet, a trap was set in all his pathways. There's hatred in the house of his God. So this is self-explanatory, this verse. It says, Ephraim looked to think like the God of the prophet, a trap was set on all his pathways, there's hatred in the house of his God. Our translation is not that different from the English translations. If you want to look at the conventional English translations, the King James Version, it's a North American Standard translation, look at all of them, and more or less say what we are saying. There are differences, and if you want an explanation of the differences that we took, because we translated directly from the Hebrew as we understood it, look on the article on our website, Brit-Am.org, into Hosea 9, and you will find it, and you will find this article and find explanations for what we are saying. And this is what it says. It says, Hosea 9, 8 in the Hebrew says, Zofei Ephraim im Elohei Navi Pach Yakush al Kudrachav Mastema Bevet Elohav. So that's it, that's what it says. It says that the Muslim places of worship are the agents of hatred against the West, against the USA and Britain, and against the Jews and biblical belief. And we know this. This is in the papers. This is what they tell us. This is what we hear. This is what they put it before our faces on their own, on their Facebook pages, on their websites. They quote their people, their priests, their preachers, their religious dignitaries as telling them to hate the West, to hate us, and to kill us. And this is how the prophet describes it, and this is what is happening, and this is a punishment for us. And because of our sins, a great hatred is stored up against us. Now, for all I know, the Muslims might have valid claims against us. Maybe we are immoral, maybe we are not as good as we should do. But God is the one who makes a judgment. God is the one who makes a judgment. He decides whether we have been on the right track or not, whether we deserve to be punished or not. And God works through agencies. So maybe the forces of Islam are rather punishment, like Assyria once was against us, or will be, God forbid, in the future. And we should realize this, and we should know that this possibility. You know what Hosea says in his prophecies to us, because he's speaking to us, because we are the descendants of Brit-Am. People in the Western nations, to a large degree, to a significant degree, are descended from Muslim tribes of Israel. Now, one final point is they do say people want to appease the Islam, they want to get friendly with the Muslims. They say that Islam, there's a good side to Islam, there's a nice side to Islam. They're actually nice people, we can get along with them. And they've done it in the past. It was a golden age in Spain and elsewhere of Islamic culture, of toleration and so on. And this is all myth. It's not true. Islam was always bad. Sometimes it was worse than others. There's bad and there's worse. There was no good there. Almost not. And one of the figureheads they quote, or these do-gooders quote, as showing how in the past Islam did manage to get along with the West, or get along with civilized normal people, is to refer to Maimonides. Maimonides was a Jewish rabbi. He was a legal expert. He wrote very important legal books. He was a genius. He wrote books on philosophy as well, and he was also a physician, a doctor of medicine, and he was in the employ of Saladin, who ruled over the Middle East, and his capital was in Egypt. The centre of his power was in Egypt, and Maimonides was appointed to his court. And so they point to Maimonides as a figure, see what a non-Muslim person could reach to, see what heights he could reach, what achievements he could accomplish under Muslim rule. And they point to this as an example of Islamic's so-called toleration, as if to say. So let us see what Maimonides, also known as the Rambam. Jews usually refer to Maimonides as the Rambam. Maimonides is a Latinized version of his name. Let us see what Maimonides, there's a letter to Tayman, himself said concerning Islam and the forces of Muhammad. He says, but you understand, my brothers, the Holy One, blessed be He, that is God Almighty, through the trap created by our iniquities, our sins created a trap for us, cast us amongst this nation, the people of Ishmael. Ishmael refers to, it was the son of Abraham, it's the brother of Yitzchak, and he was the forefather of the Arab nations, and the figure of Ishmael refers to Muslim Arabs. And he says that their oppressiveness is firmly upon us, and they continue to do us wrong, and despicably downgrade us, as the Almighty decreed against us. He quotes Deuteronomy 23:31, your enemies shall judge you. There never came against Israel a more antagonistic nation. They oppress us with the most oppressive measures to lessen our number, reduce us, diminish us, and make us as despicable as they themselves are. King David, may he rest in peace, saw through divine inspiration all the calamities that were destined to come upon Israel. Nevertheless, even though he saw all the other troubles, he still began to shout out and lament in the name of the whole nation against the oppression that would be occasioned by the Ishmaelites, that is, the Arab nations. David said, woe is me that I sojourn in Meshach, that I dwell in the contents of Kedar. Psalms 120 verse 5. Notice that David emphasizes Kedar out of all of the other children of Ishmael. Why? This is because of that madman, in Hebrew Meshuggah, this is what Maimonides says, that madman, Meshuggah, came from Kedar. That is Muhammad, the madman, the Meshuggah, came from Kedar. He was descended from Kedar, according to what's been published concerning his genealogy. So that is what Maimonides says about Islam, what he says about the Muslim Arabs and their toleration and the wickedness that they did to us, their intoleration, and we couldn't have said it better, and nothing could be said, nothing further needs to be said. May the Lord God of Israel bless you. Thank you.